What is clever way to save money that most people don't realize? Politely make a counter offer when you get a job offer. It's actually expected and there's pretty much zero risk in doing so as long as you don't turn it into an ultimatum. You're probably throwing more money away by not doing this than you can save by pinching pennies and not buying drinks at restaurants. Do you have graceful wording for this? Should it be I was thinking more like $offer plus X%. I always feel it needs justification because other company is paying $Y or average for someone in my field is $Z. But that info is all coming from Glassdoor, but then I'm told that those numbers are way off base. The websites aren't reliable. I'm not in STEM, so salaries aren't as transparent, and none of my friends work in the same field. I do this, slightly modified. I buy the item by transferring the money it would have cost into my savings account and treat the money as if it is gone. If at the end of the month, I really want the item, I buy it for real. So if I really want something, I buy it at twice the price. More often than not, I don't even bother because I've forgotten about it or really didn't want it in the first place. Also, I set a spending floor. I do not spend below that amount, no matter what, and this is incorporated into my spending. So if I run out of money because I went nuts, that's my own fault and I have to live off what I have until the next paycheck. Definitely not something everyone can or wants to do, but it works for me. Take this with a grain of salt. As a remodeler, I've seen plenty of customer fuck-ups that end up costing them twice, once for their time and materials, and once for my time and materials to fix it. If something seems way too easy, you're probably missing a step. Likewise, if you dive into good information and it confuses you or you don't have the tools, save yourself the headaches and wasted money on mistakes and hire a pro. Some things are DIY friendly, some things don't. Go shopping as a form of entertainment. Put long-term savings in an investment account and not the bank. Invest in a credit card with cash back rewards that you put into savings only if you can pay the balance off each month. I use one for groceries, gas exclusively, and make about $400 annually just for using the card. Learn what's really worth it. An overpriced stay at the spa with my services or a really good 90-minute massage close to home for less. Depending on your space, you can make your own alcohol at home. It's remarkably like baking bread. I might take a few tries to get the hang of it, but pretty soon you can make something as good or better than what you buy at the store. And while you can drop $1 and $1 on equipment if you really want to, you can also spend under the cost of a single night out at a bar and get enough equipment to last you for the rest of your life, especially if you are making beer or wine that is not being aged for months or years before you drink it. Take your own lunch, coffee to work. I did the math. Before the pandemic, I would spend almost $15 a day on breakfast, lunch and morning coffee at work in the cafeteria. I work at an on-site daycare. I was laid off for a few months, and when I came back, the offices were still closed and the cafeteria has been closed since. So I bring my own food. So that was $15 a day, 5 days a week, so $75 a week, $300 a month, $3,600 a year, on food at work. I have been saving so much that, when the cafeteria opens again in a few months, I'll still bring my own food. It adds up. Buy in big packages or in bulk, on sale, but also put stuff in smaller containers to use, like dish soap, shampoo, laundry detergent, etc. You can lower the price of most things 50% basically just by tricking yourself into using less and extending the amount of time each bulk package covers. Also, when you do this with food, like putting cereal or pasta into a bigger food storage container instead of the small cardboard boxes, you won't feel the need to overeat by using up the last of a small package as often if it's in one huge container and you just get out enough for one meal. Don't buy the cheapest option. Buy a couple of steps above it. The cheapest washing machine will last you 3 years and then you have to buy a new one. Just wait for a special offer. Black Friday or some sort of clearance sellout and get the last year's model for a discount price and it will last you 10-15 years. Same thing with most machines, cars, computers and clothes. Don't buy a cheap pair of sneakers. Save up and buy a slightly more expensive leather boot, something that you can actually maintain, repair and reuse. Any furniture made out of cheap material is going to collapse eventually. Buy real wood and it will last for a lifetime. Same thing with pots and pans, bed linen, clothes and so on. I agree that we need to maintain and use to its full extent whatever we buy. There's too much fast fashion, short lifespan stuff and devices. But I've also learned to buy cheap when I know it's appropriate. Like for example, one summer I was working outside pouring concrete. I just needed a pair of work boots as my sneakers were not safe. My father-in-law told me to buy a $200 pair of boots. But since I work in IT as my regular job and can't use work boots at all for almost anything, I bought the cheapest Walmart brand on sale for $15 and just used them this summer. I was going to throw them out, but they held up for those few weeks, so well, I'm keeping them in case I ever need them. If I'd bought some expensive ones, I'd have paid way too much for a pair that I'm only going to use a few days in total and probably donate to the thrift store in a few years. It also gives me time to consider that if I end up using work boots a lot and wear them out, at least I know to buy better ones. I think of it as a trial pair. I've gone thrift store shopping and find way too many barely broken-in brand-name shoes people think they'll use often but never do. I think most people just need to really consider their needs, not wants. Also, I bought my father-in-law the $200 work boots instead since he was doing most of the work. Lol. I know he'll use them more than I ever will. The reason that the rich were so rich, Vimes reasoned, was because they managed to spend less money. Take boots, for example. He earned $38 a month plus allowances. A really good pair of leather boots cost $50, but an affordable pair of boots, which were sort of okay for a season or two and then leaked like hell when the cardboard gave out, cost about $10. Those were the kind of boots Vimes always bought and wore until the soles were so thin that he could tell where he was an Ankh-Morpork on a foggy night by the feel of the cobbles. But the thing was that good boots lasted for years and years. A man who could afford $50 had a pair of boots that'd still be keeping his feet dry in 10 years' time, while the poor man who could only afford cheap boots would have spent $100 on boots in the same time and would still have wet feet. This was the Captain Samuel Vimes Boots theory of socio-economic unfairness. I do something similar with my gaming computers, but I do it a little differently. Every 5 years or so, I build a top-of-the-line gaming computer out of the best parts currently available. I try to time it about 4-6 months after a new groundbreaking product is released, like the Ryzen 5950 and the RTX 3090. I might pay $5,000 for the computer, but then I get to experience true luxury for the next 2-3 years before it becomes a mid-range PC, after which I ride the long tail for another couple of years. This works much better than spending $2,000 on a shitty computer every 3 years that is always lagging behind the times and never really performs well. You spend almost the same amount of money over a 5-year span, but with this technique at least you get to taste the luxury half the time. And here's the kicker. Every single high-end gaming computer that I have built over the last 8 years or so has completely paid for itself via crypto mining. You literally can't lose. Keep almost all your money in an account that's not connected to your card, but you can easily transfer from. Keep only enough to cover small expenses, like a coffee or small grocery store trip in the account that's connected to your card. Every time you buy something that costs more than €20 or so, you'll need to take an extra step in transferring the money for it, and also have to look at your account balance to better gauge whether it's really worth it. This stops nearly all impulse buying for me, other than small items. To further this, get paid into a savings account and earn interest on what you don't spend from day one. Edit for clarification, because a lot of people seem to think that I'm suggesting you squirrel away tons of money in a standard savings account forever and ever. Shop around and find a savings account that gives you a bonus rate for regular deposits. Get your wages paid into it. Even if the rates are low, as they are at the moment, you are earning something for it to be there. This account should be reasonably easy to access, that is directly connected to a debit card, or no-fee transfer to a debit account. From the savings account, regularly review what you need the money for and what might be a better use for it. Depending on your circumstances, this might be weekly, monthly, quarterly, etc. Invest the surplus in higher earning forms. Depending on your risk adversity, it might be term deposits, shares, property, etc. These forms of investments are typically harder to access if you need the money on short notice. Even if you maintain a balance of $1,000 at 1% P.A., that turns you $10 a year, which is more than you would be getting from your piggy bank, as has been suggested elsewhere on this thread. Anything excess to what you would reasonably need to access in a week should be invested into a higher earning investment. I am in Australia. 1% interest is available to most adults. There are bank accounts with further bonuses for young adults and/or students, for children, or for retirees. Shop around. Look up comparison websites. Find something that suits your circumstances. Disclaimer: I am not a financial advisor, and I don't know your personal circumstances. This may not work for you, but it is a way to get your money to start working for you from the moment it arrives in your bank account. While I was doing my PhD and making $25,000, I'd often have friends remark on my apparently lavish spending as if they didn't realize you can afford an occasional new video game or whatever when you aren't spending $15 a night on Chinese takeout. Just blew my mind that people in that income bracket, and very intelligent people nonetheless, didn't realize that $80 per week on groceries is hugely different than 2 meals at the cafeteria or a takeout place a day. Take a lesson gleaned from Milton Friedman. He is the economist who during WW2 saw that the Treasury was struggling with money coming in, specifically with people being able to pay their tax bill at the end of the year. So he had an idea, and suggested it. Why not have taxes withheld from paychecks and we can have the people reconcile at the end of the year and either pay the difference or get a refund. You see, cutting the check every quarter or at year's end was too much for a lot of people. So the money coming into the Treasury was not good, but when a little was taken out every pay period, people adjusted accordingly. So do the same thing yourself if your employer allows it. Set up a savings account and have a little bit of money, say 1% of your net pay, withheld every pay period. You will adjust your spending habits, hopefully, and be saving a little money. Then every time you get a pay increase, commit some of that raise to the account as well. I would praise the benefits of compound interest at this point, but with rates being what they are, I have developed several ways to save significant amounts of money without much effort. Thrift stores, especially where I live, there are lots of them, and they have deals quite frequently. If you time it right, you can get just about any durable good for less. Now, it won't be new, or shiny even, but if you want some plates, who the fuck cares? After 3 months those $10 new plates will be just as scuffed as the 99-cent thrift store ones. Same with glassware, coffee mugs. Clothes are hit or miss, because so many people are reselling thrift store shit. Go early in the AM if you can. Swap meets are same as above, but you can typically find newer items here. Beware of resellers peddling Alibaba, AliExpress specials. Expect to pay more for your goods. People know what they have. Ethnic markets. They sell many things at higher prices, but if one goes to the Asian or Latin market for spices, you will get 2-3x as much for the same price, and the quality is as good. Computers and electronic goods are easily found through Nextdoor or friend networks. Always keep a few herds under your belt in your friend group, and ask often when their company is disposing of electronics. You may just find that you don't have to pay for, say, a laptop with no HDD, a 100-foot Cat5e/Cat6 Ethernet cable, or even some Avenue cables and dongles, some of which can be expensive. university surplus, government surplus. These are open to the public, and they sell everything from furniture to computers and bicycles, even vehicles, at rock-bottom prices. Restaurant supply stores, same as above, but some are not open to the public, so find a way to get in, or order from one like Standard Restaurant Supply, which is open to anybody. You can get everything from dishware to appliances at about 1/3 RD to 1/2 the cost of a premium cooking store. Lots of good knives as well. Don't buy coffees or lunches daily. I worked with a guy who was always complaining about being poor, but the guy spent $5 a day on coffee and $12 on lunch. That's $1,225 on coffee and $2,940 on lunch over the course of the year, factoring in vacation days, for a total of $4,165. Break that down over 12 months and it's $347 a month. Also wait a week or two before buying something you want to make sure it isn't an impulse. I can't tell you how often that one has saved me a fortune in shit I didn't really want, need. Edit. It should go without saying you should have a budget drawn out and live within your means as well. Personally, I track every single one of my expenses so I don't overspend. Yep, of note, this doesn't work for people who genuinely are not making enough, which frequently is the case. There's no tip or trick that can help them. Systemic change has to be made. But oh boy, the number of people I've known who I know for a fact make the same, more than me, and have the same, lower base expenses, bills, rent, etc., and are always broke. This is what they do. They do not ever cook, make sandwiches, or brew coffee. In a pay period, they'll get Starbucks for breakfast, fast food for lunch, and Grubhub for dinner 12-13 days a week, and literally not eat the day before payday because they have $0 in their account. Then ask how it's possible I always have money, since we make the same. Once one of those people asked if I wanted to go out to eat and I said I couldn't afford it. They asked, you can't afford? Low number of dollars? We just got paid a few days ago. Yeah, I may have $5 or $10 or $25 literally in my account, but that doesn't mean all of those dollars are available to spend now. If I have $200, a $50 bill due, grocery shopping to do, an empty gas tank, and plans to go out on Friday, I don't have $200, I have $0. I think there is a lot of marketing that scares people into buying right then and there. There are places like TJ Maxx, TK Maxx that tell you on big signs buy right now or it will be gone. And I've seen other places that say once it's gone, it's gone. So it causes a panic and people think they need it right then and there. Etsy has this thing where it will say only one available and it's in 10 people's baskets. For all we know, the seller is the one adding it to multiple baskets to try and drum up interest. I've missed out on things before, but I would rather that than have purchase regret. I'm used to just spending money on my debit card. If I see the money in my account, I wanna spend it. I recently bought my first car and haven't been able to save any money. My BF and I are trying to buy a home and I needed to start saving again. I've recently got an organizing envelope binder and labeled them with each bill I have. Then other categories for things I normally spend money on. I organized like this: Bill 1, Bill 2, Bill 3, Bill 4, Bill 5, Bill 6, Fund Savings Houses, Pet Fund Car, Gas Fund Groceries. This has helped me so much. I take all my money out of my account, split them all according to the bills and such, and then savings and finally fun. I try and leave myself $100 for a month for fun. I've literally been able to save so much money and I even spend less. Learn how to cook legumes, and treat meat more like a luxury item. If you let vegetables go bad too often, start buying frozen. Before you grocery shop, take a moment to see what can be made with what you have left. Beans, lentils are crazy cheap and can be prepared in a million different ways, while being healthy and filling. Some of my favorites are falafel, crispy black bean burgers, and curry lentil and sweet potato shepherd's pie. Pretend you're a broke college student for a month. Then gradually add things back into your life. You'll have a new appreciation for small things like getting the good bread or something. A reset like that can help you realize which lifestyle creep things you don't really want and make you more thankful for things you were taking for granted before. Tips on living like a broke college student. You don't really need any subscription services. Check out movies, audiobooks, and more at public libraries or find interesting libras or Twitch streams. Carb/chicken/vegetables/seasoning can be cooked so many different ways. Current favorites include Instant Pot teriyaki chicken rice bowl and slow cooker BBQ chicken with homemade fries and cooked vegetables. If you're spending more than $2 per person per meal, cold water is delicious. Public parks, game nights, and movie nights are free and great activities for hanging out with friends and family. Just getting into this myself, but gardening is a fun, rewarding hobby that gives you food and can be a way to recycle food scraps.